Good evening, Toiletarians. I'm your host, Toilet Terry, and you're watching Season 6 of Toilet Talk with Terry. Would be me. Yeah, okay, I'm starting to sound like Adrian Hardy. Season 6. 6 topics to cover in 6 episodes. And by that, no, I am not referring to 666. I just said it. Anywho, tonight's topic is the creeps. I heard this story one time that gave me the severe creeps. Back in my hometown of Smyrna, Georgia, there's this covered bridge. Yeah. Sorry, I don't want to sound like Adrian Hardy anymore. So there was a story back in my hometown of Smyrna, speaking of the covered bridge, about these, I don't know if they're species or whatever, but it was the story of the waterheads. Now, my grandfather told me this story, and yeah, as you know, I like to embellish things, but I promise you I'm not going to embellish this one. I'm going to tell it very thoroughly. The waterheads are... Well, the Waterheads was the name of an asylum for these babies that were born with water on the brain. It made their heads really big. They were just retarded. Okay, I'm sorry, that's not a nice word, but you know what I'm trying to say. They were handicapped, and late at night, they would sneak out of their home or their asylum, and they would hide in the covered bridge when it was really dark, and they would scare people as they drove through the covered bridge. It was rumored. So then, I mean, if people were out on a date at night, you know, let's say the boyfriend was driving the car, he would stop in the middle of the covered bridge and say, "Ooh, where are the waterheads?" And yeah, his girlfriend would get so scared. You know, she would scoot closer to you, and, you know, if you were lucky, you could steal a kiss from your girlfriend. That was about the only good that anybody got out of the story of the waterheads. Other than that, it was just terrorizing. It was so scary. Nobody wanted to go out at night unless they were just stupid and they were like, "Ooh, let's see these waterheads." And it was terrifying. It really was. You could hear the water running underneath the bridge. You'd go in there, and it was rumored that the waterheads really liked candy. They loved candy bars and just candy in general, so people would go out to the store, especially teenagers, buy like a Snickers bar or a Twix bar or something, and they would stop in the middle of the covered bridge as they were driving. They would put it there, and rumor had it that if they came back 20-30 minutes later and the candy bar was missing, that the waterheads had been there. And so yeah, I mean, of course that story's not true, but it would be pretty scary if it was. Also in Smyrna, and also speaking of my grandfather, there was this house, right? And there is this house called the Taylor Bronner House. He was having it refurbished. I don't know if he was having the hospital behind it refurbished, but we'll go into that a little later. The house, however, was haunted. It was rumored to be haunted. Everybody knew about that. Everybody was scared. So he didn't really have many people to sell the house to, even at lower prices. He just could not make a deal with a contractor even to try and refurbish the house in the first place. So yeah, he finally settled on this rich city slicker from the city and had him go to the house with him one day around, what was it, noon or something? But then, yeah, his car broke down, and then he didn't end up making it until dinner. It was a dark and rainy and stormy night. So, in that case, they were starting to wonder if the ghost was still resting or if it was awake. Hopefully it was still resting, my grandfather says, so he took the city slicker into the house. He nervously swallowed. He turned the doorknob in the house. The city slicker was really impressed. And so yeah, this started to calm my grandfather a little bit, and he was starting to say, maybe I should have raised the price a little bit more. Because, I mean, this dude's rich, he seems relaxed. But then, just as they thought they were okay, they then wander into this hallway infested with cobwebs. Just cobwebs everywhere. And the man says, the city slicker said, "Creepy! Wow!" And then he bounded energetically into the foyer. And then he said, resoundingly, he shouted, "Come to me, foul spirits!" And then the house rang with a very, 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 very unearthly chuckle. Mwahahaha. I can't do that, but you know what I'm trying to say. It was a creepy, maniacal laugh, followed by a creepy voice that said, "I'm coming down now." Then the city slicker turns to my grandfather and says, "Whoa! Great special effects. How'd you do that?" "I didn't do it," said my grandfather. "I didn't." And then the voice said it again. "I'm coming down now." My grandfather had his hand on the doorknob to leave already. And then this man, the city slicker, his grin started to slip. And he looked at my grandfather in his frightened posture. And then he followed my grandfather's gaze towards the stairs, and there it was. A green-headed, flaming head monster, creepy, creepy, creepy looking spirit with fangs instead of teeth was standing right there. He also had flaming eyes. And then, when its head started to roll down the stairs towards the two men, before they knew it, they were both halfway down the road outside of the house, screaming so loudly it was even rivaling, that's a tongue twister once again, it was rivaling the scream of the spectral creature that was back in the house. Because when the spectral creature came down the stairs, it screamed so loud it was nearly ear-piercing. And they were screaming louder than it. It wasn't until about 2 blocks down that my grandfather realized he still had company with them. He heard a voice from behind say, "I don't think I want to buy that house after all." And he was panting, and it was the city slicker, and he said, "Oh, you're still here." And then a familiar voice behind them shrieked, "Why not?" And then they saw that this spirit that had a flaming head with big, beaming red eyes had been keeping up with them. And then the city slicker ran away so fast off into the distance there was no keeping up with him. And then the spirit asked my grandfather, "Now what would have been the price?" And then my grandfather, he ran. He shrieked even louder than the city slicker, and he just ran. He ran. And as of today, the house is not bought by anybody. It's refurbished, but all it is really just a history museum, history kind of area, as is the hospital. It's not really used to cure patients anymore, which I might go into later. It's just probably a place where you go and look at skeletons in the closet or whatnot, I don't know. Which leads me into our next topic. Join us on the next Toilet Talk with Terry Season 6, covering 6 topics, 6 episodes. Not to mean, no, I'm not going to say it. Join us on the next one for Skeletons in the Closet. Alright, don't forget to click subscribe for more content. Again, don't forget to click subscribe. What's to come is going to be lit, spooky, and scary. You don't want to miss it unless you're just a scaredy cat or you just don't believe in any of this kind of stuff. I may or may not, but I'm not going to go into that, okay? Good night, everybody.